Hello, welcome to Movie Summaries. Today we are summarizing a 2012 horror and thriller movie called The Collection. Fair warning, there are spoilers in this summary. Enjoy, and be sure to subscribe to watch more videos weekly, and hit like. The movie begins with a man named Mr. Peters, traveling somewhere with his daughter Elena. Elena's mother recently passed away, and she is still shaken by the loss. Peter consoles his daughter. He also promises to be there with her. Suddenly, a truck hits their car. The movie then cuts to a news report about a violent serial killer on the loose, who has killed more than 24 people. The series of brutal murder has instilled fear in the heart of the city dwellers, forcing them to live indoors. However, that doesn't guarantee safety, as the assailant traps his victims in homes, workplaces, and then kills them. He takes one victim from each crime scene. He really is out here collecting people like Pokemon. The killer has been dubbed as the Predator without boundaries. He targets everyone. The killer's last victim is no stranger to crime himself. He is Arkin O'Brien, a twice-convicted thief, who was abducted shortly after paramedics responded to a 911 call. Arkin's wife, Lisa O'Brien, pleads to the killer through the media to release her husband. I mean, he's obviously not going to let him go, but what's the harm in trying? The police chief assures Lisa and the loved ones of the victim of the serial killer to hunt him down and bring him to justice. The serial killer puts on his mask and ventures out, seemingly to find more victims. The movie then cuts to Elena studying in her room. Elena is hard of hearing, so she uses a hearing aid. She gets a phone call from her boyfriend, Brian, who tells her that he won't be able to meet her tonight. Elena is bummed, but she understands and lets him off the hook. Just as she finishes talking to her boo, Elena receives a call from her best friend, Missy. Missy says that she is going to a party and asks Elena to come with her. Elena tries to turn her down, but Missy tells her that she is already outside her house. Elena gives in to the temptation and agrees to go to the party. As she heads out, Elena notices that her dad has fallen asleep on the couch with the TV on. Elena covers her father with the blanket before heading out. Sweet. Missy has brought her younger brother, Josh, with her. Josh has a crush on Elena and asks his sister to help impress her. Missy asks him to just be confident around Elena. The trio then head to their destination. Missy reveals that the party is supposed to be in a discreet location, and one can only gain entry through a password. They enter a quiet alleyway. Voluntarily walking into a secluded alleyway with a psychotic killer on the loose doesn't feel like a good idea. Red flags everywhere. A scary-looking man approaches them. Missy is sure that the scary-looking man is the door guy, and Elena tells him the password. The password is Nevermore. Fortunately, he is the doorman, and he lets the trio through the door. The party seems lit, and people are turned up. The three teenagers immediately join the party and rage. Looks like a good time. Missy starts making out with the guy, while Josh goes around hitting on girls. Meanwhile, Elena spots her boyfriend, Brian, at the party, making out with another girl. Oh shit, you were screwed, dude. Hurt. Elena proceeds to punch the unfaithful guy before making her way out to the dance floor. You deserve that. Worried, Missy follows her friend out. The serial killer is seen watching Elena from above the spotlight metal frame. Missy eventually loses Elena and heads back to the dance floor. In the room, Elena breaks into tears when she notices a strange red box with someone trapped inside. As soon as she opens the chest, a wounded Arkin O'Brien pops out and pulls Elena down to save her from a steel spear that was meant to kill whoever frees him. Although they save each other, the stimuli sets off the killer's complex death trap. The exits of the building are locked, and a massive razor saw blade starts killing people on the dance floor, including Josh, while Brian barely survives. Holy freaking crap. Arkin asks Elena to uncuff him, but a spooked Elena gets him off of her and abandons him. In the process, Elena drops a metal hoop of her dress, which Arkin uses to uncuff himself. Outside, a girl and Brian try to flee the deadly party, but end up walking into a machete trap and get killed. The psychotic killer then traps the last of the survivors in a cage and proceeds to crush them with an elevator. Elena finds her friend Missy inside and tries to open the cage, but to no avail. Elena helplessly watches as her friend gets crushed to death. Human pancakes, anyone? Just kidding. The killer then starts chasing her. She runs toward the isolated room side and notices Arkin removing the barricading on a window. Before she could flee, the killer catches up to her, and Arkin jumps out through the window, using Brian's dead body as a cushion. Arkin nevertheless breaks his arm in the process. Arkin is unable to move, but seeing the killer in the window gives him the boost to pick his ass up and run. The killer puts Elena in the red box and drives off. Arkin later wakes up in a hospital, surrounded by a team of doctors and nurses. The doctor notices strange cuts on Arkin's arm. As the doctor realigns his broken arm, the police come barging in out of nowhere and handcuff him due to his criminal record. Arkin passes out and suffers from the nightmares of his own torture at the hands of the killer. He later wakes up to Lisa by his side. He is excited to see her after so long, but his excitement soon turns to worry when he notices flowers sent to him by the killer. In the card, the killer calls himself the Collector and tells Arkin that he can't wait to meet Lisa. Worried for her safety, Arkin asks her to go to her mom's house. Lisa is puzzled and refuses to leave him alone in the hospital, but he eventually convinces her to leave. Later, Arkin is approached by a man named Lucello, an employee of Elena's wealthy father. He reveals that Mr. Peters has ordered him and a team of mercenaries to hunt down the Collector and rescue Elena, who has gone missing since the underground party massacre. The movie then cuts back to the car accident of younger Elena and her father. She's stuck in the car, and her father is brutally injured and can't get to her. A man appears, breaks the window open on her side, and rescues her. The movie cuts back to the present day, with Elena waking up startled inside the red trunk. She witnesses a man being tortured by the Collector, peeking from a hole in the trunk. After the Collector leaves, Elena uses her bra strap to unlock the latch and free herself. Now, that's called improvisation. The room looks like an entomologist's lab, with different insects inside glass jars. She's searching around before Elena could leave. The killer returns, forcing her to hide. The movie cuts to Arkin and the mercenaries that plan to rescue Elena: Lynn, Paz, Wally, and Dre. Lucello believes that Arkin can help them take down the Collector because he is the only person who managed to get away from the killer's death trap alive. Arkin agrees to help after Lucello tells him that he will expunge Arkin's criminal record. However, Arkin warns the mercenaries that he will help them get to the Collector, but he won't go inside the deranged killer's den. Arkin reveals that the cuts on his arm is a map he drew when the Collector kidnapped him, and it could lead them to the Collector. It indeed works, and Lucello and his team arrive at the Collector's base, an abandoned hotel. Fortunately, Arkin and others gain entry into the facility, and an alarm goes off while the killer is in the lab, forcing the Collector to go after the intruders. Elena uses the opportunity to escape through the air vent. After doing his job, Arkin proceeds to leave, but Lucello forces him at gunpoint to guide them through the hotel. Knowing that the Collector must have set all kinds of traps inside, Lucello and others enter the hotel, while Lynn stands guard at the door. As expected, the Collector ambushes the lone guard and kills him. Definitely stupid to go solo. The killer then unleashes his captives, who have been mutilated and driven insane with drugs. Left with no choice, the mercenary team shoots them dead. As a precaution, they decide to alert the police, but learn that their cell phone signals have been jammed by the Collector. After crawling through the air vent, Elena finds herself in a room with another trunk and opens it. A seemingly innocent woman with heavy makeup on her face crawls out. She reveals that she is Abby, and the Collector put the makeup on her face to make her look like a doll. Abby is afraid of leaving the room, but Elena convinces her to come along. Meanwhile, Lucello and others discover a frantically crying semi-naked unknown man. As he moves closer to the team, he cries, "I didn't make it." When asked what he means, the man replies, "The collection," and screaming at Lucello and his team, "And neither will you." Upon realizing that the man has a bomb tied to his neck, Lucello orders his team to back off. They survive the bomb, but Dre gets speared by a trap and dies. Ouch. Arkin uses the shock to run away from Lucello and his mercenaries. Seriously? Why would he venture off on his own? Meanwhile, Abby notices that Elena uses a hearing aid and freaks out. She feels that Elena is at a disadvantage and can't win with the Collector. Dramatic much. Abby's screams draw the killer towards them, and he starts chasing Elena. However, Elena manages to get away through another vent and comes across a room with a small window. She notices two people outside and calls out for them for help. However, she is not able to reach them. Meanwhile, Arkin comes across a room full of glass cases containing human body parts rearranged to resemble insects. Lucello and his team eventually find Arkin and attempt to detain him. However, Arkin spots the Collector above on a walkway. He tries to warn them, but they ignore his warnings and it costs Wally his life. After punching Lucello, the Collector hangs Paz upside down on an aerial lift and sends her into a chamber. Lucello and Arkin run after her, but fail to save her. Arkin and Lucello then encounter Abby, who hears them argue over Elena. She tells them that she can lead them to Elena if they promise to help her escape. Suddenly, Paz's screams echo throughout the hotel. Elena and Lucello's group separately start looking for Paz. Lucello realizes that it could be a trap and hence asks Arkin to stay with Abby as he inspects the source of the noise. Elena eventually finds Paz and rescues her. Meanwhile, Lucello realizes that he's been hearing Paz's screams being played through a speaker, and he was being led to yet another bomb. Fortunately, Lucello, Arkin, and Abby manage to get away on time, and they end up reuniting with Paz and Elena. Elena is elated to see Lucello. She then notices Abby and remembers her earlier outburst. She pleads with Lucello not to trust her, but he nevertheless allows Abby to accompany the group. Elena leads the group to a room with a small window she found earlier. The two men are still standing outside. Arkin asks Lucello to give him his gun to attract the attention of the two men. Lucello is skeptical of Arkin's intentions, but Arkin convinces him to give him the gun. Arkin then shoots one of the men outside, knowing that the reports of a shooting will draw the police's attention. Elena is horrified, but Lucello praises Arkin's smart thinking. "I definitely want to stick with this dude." The police quickly arrive, and Arkin shoots at the police to force them to raid the hotel and rescue them. Seeing their plan succeed, Abby tries to sabotage their efforts. She locks them and herself in the room and screams to draw the collector's attention. Oh, that pisses me off. Elena was right to not trust her. Enraged, Paz punches her. Abby loses her balance and steps on one of the collector's traps, getting killed as a result. The light suddenly goes out throughout the building, and the collector shows up with a rifle, two scary dogs, and opens fire at them. After an intense battle, the two dogs die, and the collector again takes Elena. Lucello is caught in a trap and unable to go after Elena. He senses his impending doom and has Arkin and Paz to rescue Elena. They find Elena strapped to an autopsy table. Predictably, when they approach her, they are trapped in a cage. Arkin challenges the killer to fight, but he lights the building on fire instead. Panicking, the trio try to open the cage, but to no avail. Suddenly, Arkin has an idea, and he makes Elena break his arm so that he can reach the latch, taking one for the team. The plan works, and the group escapes. The collector again attacks them and kills Paz. He goes after Arkin next, but Lucello shows up. It turns out, Lucello used the dog's corpse to escape the collector's trap safely. A grisly battle follows between Lucello and the collector. Unfortunately, Lucello doesn't make it. However, Arkin recovers by then and takes on the killer. After beating the shit out of him, Arkin dumps him in a chute and sets him on fire. Elena repeatedly bangs on the door, alerting the firefighters outside of their presence. Arkin is trapped in the middle of a fire pit and can't get to Elena, so she quickly takes a metal pole and starts breaking open the glass water-filled boxes to help save him. Smart thinking. Arkin and Elena are finally rescued. Elena reunites with her dad, while Arkin notices a pile of trunks. Upon investigating, he finds the collector's burned mask, but no corpse. Oh crap. The movie then flashes forward to the future. Arkin has tracked down the collector's house by going through every registered entomologist. Within a 200-mile radius of their last encounter, he confronts the killer at gunpoint and taunts him about his deranged museum curator father, who was responsible for the collector's madness and modus operandi. Arkin tells him his intentions of making the collector feel everything he put his victims through before eventually killing him. The collector tries to attack him, but Arkin forces him into the red trunk and bashes his fingers with the trunk's lid. Hope you enjoyed our summary. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos weekly. Thanks.